With the exception of supporting the camcorder, finding something to shoot, and pressing record, most consumer camcorders do just about everything else for you. But don't let this be an excuse not to unlock your creativity and potential as a great amateur videographer. Most people who use a camcorder use the auto setting. This means that the camcorder automatically adjusts settings like focus, white balance, exposure, aperture and gain, and shutter speed. When on auto, your camcorder adjusts these settings based on what it thinks is the best picture. Though the image in the viewfinder may look similar to what you're really seeing, your camcorder might not be recording to its fullest potential. When purchasing a camcorder, make sure you can adjust the settings we're about to discuss manually. You may decide that they're too much trouble and never use them, but you'll still have them if you ever want to move to the next level. Except for certain circumstances, despite what professional videographers say, you will want to leave the autofocus on. For general shooting, let your camcorder do the dirty work. You don't want to ruin that special event because your camcorder wasn't in focus. With that said, here are some circumstances where you might not want to use autofocus. When you'll be looking through the viewfinder at all times. Remember, if the object isn't in focus, make sure the viewfinder is adjusted to your eyesight. In the case where something might move in front of the camcorder, in manual focus mode, your subject will remain in focus. When doing the In My Life interview. Once your interviewee is in her place and in focus, you can turn the autofocus off. Camcorders in autofocus mode will use more battery power. Your camcorder has an iris, or aperture, that can open to allow more light to pass through your lens, or close to allow less light to pass through it. While shooting in very low light conditions, if you can see an image in your viewfinder, it will appear grainy. This is because there isn't enough available light for your camcorder to see, even with the iris completely open. When on auto, gain will electronically boost light levels so that the image is more visible, but the result really isn't worth the loss in quality. As a rule, you should use gain and other electronic enhancements as little as possible. When your camcorder is on manual, the viewfinder should display how open the iris is by the letter F followed by a number. These are known as f-stops. The greater the f-stop, the smaller the iris opening. If your camcorder is set to f8, you probably won't be able to see anything in your viewfinder at night or in a poorly lit room. If your camcorder is set to f2, your subject will be completely washed out on a sunny day. Some camcorders have an exposure button. This works similar to f-stops, but those camcorders generally don't show where the open iris ends and the gain begins. On consumer camcorders, gain will not start working until the iris is completely open and should be represented by a number followed by dB. The greater the number, the more enhanced the image will be. But remember, the image quality will suffer. If you need a little more light and none is available, try not to go higher than 6 dB. When you white balance, you're adjusting the camcorder to match the color temperature of the available light. Have you ever used a camcorder in a well-lit room that also has a lot of sunlight coming in and objects have either a bluish or reddish tint? This happens when your camcorder is improperly white balanced. In situations where you have both sunlight and incandescent light, the camcorder might not be able to interpret the correct color temperature. If this happens, you'll have to set the color temperature manually. Most camcorders that allow you to white balance manually will have several modes to choose from. Auto, or AWB, indicates that the camcorder will automatically adjust to what it senses is the correct setting. A light bulb symbol represents the setting for shooting indoors under tungsten, incandescent lighting, or regular household light bulbs. A fluorescent bulb symbol represents the setting for shooting indoors under fluorescent lighting, like in professional buildings. A sun symbol represents the setting for shooting in daylight. Some camcorders have different settings for direct sunlight, shade, and cloud cover. This usually represents the manual setting. When flashing, it means the lighting is different than it was when last set. To manually white balance your camcorder, you'll need to have something white. A piece of paper, a handkerchief, a white wall, pretty much anything white will work. You should always keep a lint-free cloth for cleaning your lens in your camcorder case at all times. If the cloth is white, like this one, you'll always have something to use for your white balance. Refer to your user manual for specific instructions on how to white balance your camcorder. Most camcorders have some type of image stabilization. Optical stabilizers help reduce shake better than electronic. Even if your camcorder's stabilizer is optical, this is not an excuse to be carefree when holding the camcorder. You need to keep the camcorder as steady as possible at all times to make good video.